Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and a brand new video on Marvel Contest of Champions. I didn't think that it would come to the point when I'll be talking about the word boycott again. Yes, boycott, boycott, boycott. Over the last 24 hours, that is all I have heard from people in various different places, sources and motivations and movements. Essentially, this video is going to look at the two boycotts going on at the moment, and I'll be trying to answer the question which boycott I'm supporting, because there are two boycotts. I think there might be like 3 or 4 boycotts, who knows. But am I going to be boycotting the boycott about financial and kind of what people see from the game from a point of view of going to the Play Store? Am I going to be boycotting the game for the 1 day for the logout boycott? So yeah, wherever you stand the line with boycotting, which boycott you're boycotting, then boycott away, I say. But if you're looking for a more passionate revolution, then maybe I could suggest the Meek Korg revolution. That's going to be quite important. Obviously disappointing if they don't print enough pamphlets, and his mum and his boyfriend turns up because he hates his mum's boyfriend. Now, obviously, all joking aside, I am taking this very seriously, but at the same time, I'm just thinking, well, this is ridiculous. No computer game, no game that's on like an Android or iOS device that I've played has ever had this extensive problem with relationship between the game's developer and the client, customer, player, whatever you want to call it, us to Kabam relationship. It's not been, I've never known a game where the relationship has been this bad. Now, this can be contributed to a lot of things with regards to breakdown in communication, right the way through to rewards not scaling against as you progress through the game. But I think the underlying problem is communication. If you're a follower of Marvel Contest of Champions news, you'll know over the last 12 months it's become progressively and extending with those stories about bugs that seem to appear in the game. And the forum is a place where I spend most of my time, just going through and seeing what's problems, what Kabam are doing about certain things, so players and summoners are put in the loop when changes come in, as well as what they plan to do to address bugs. But the main thing is new things being changed, that is being one of the big factors of communication breakdown. When Kabam look to make changes, they choose to say, right, we're going to announce this as a thing. It's very rarely that things get beta tested, but I think beta testing is going to be more of a prevalent thing going forward. Maybe there's going to be a sandbox server. Maybe they're going to push for more of the beta testing type stuff that they're doing at the moment, like they did with the Mystic Dispersion, like what they did with Luke Cage and Red Hulk. This will be an ongoing thing, and hopefully it will improve. However, though, there's still things that escape that beta testing that also escape the content contributor program. I myself am part of that program, but I've tried to get into a few beta testing things in the past and it just hasn't worked. I was meant to do Dungeons beta testing with Havoc, and we both had trouble getting into the server to do it. It would have been nice to get more of a run of it. I know that Dave as well as Brian were able to do that and do a video out of it, but for us, we weren't able to get in, and we weren't given that level of communication to say why you're not getting in. Can they help us out? We tried what they said, we couldn't get in. It just was a bit pointless. But following on from that, the content contributor program doesn't provide much of a communication platform. When the issues came out about dungeons, I put something on a special forum post and said, what has been going on over the last month? You need to address this, and got no response to it. And I'm not saying Kabam are going to ignore that, and they were ignoring it, but it does reach a point that if we're being ignored as content contributors, then if the community are being ignored with aspects of saying, hey, well, the connection's bad as well, why are you changing Archangel? Why have you considered it to be such a long time that has now changed for him to go up against like stun immunity and kind of bypass that? Likewise with other changes, like did they think that proper testing had been done for Alliance Wars? No changes, and the answer would probably be, we don't know, that's handled internally, we're not going to give you that level of information, nor are we going to allow it to be beta tested except for internally, and then we're going to ship it out. From my perspective, and from anybody that runs a business, number one, looks at a business in a professional sense, that doesn't feel like proper communication to your customer base, as well as being to any kind of level of transparency, which we are led to believe that there is. This all came to a head with the Season 3 announcement and the general consensus that the maps are not meant to be 100%ed. They're not meant to be finished. The new kind of push for this is that, yeah, you're going to battle each alliance, but you're not going to be able to finish it. And that's going to be the big clincher. If you 100% your particular grind for your map, for your battle group, then that's, wow, that's incredible. But at the same time, no. And this is going to shake things up. And it did, but it then led us on to these two aspects of boycotting, and we're going to cover them now. Let's begin with the first boycott that's put in place, and it's not really considered to be a boycott. It's like a type of logout. And what Muttermat, and obviously this is a great site, the Class Advantage, I love it to bits, as well as Muttermat, support him and follow him on Twitter, and you should too. The main thing that he was going to do is put a structured point together, which he did on the 27th of June. That kind of outlined why it would be a good point to show solidarity to the rest of the community about a logout day. Some people may think that that's like not enough, and some people think that, hey, that's fine, that's kind of good to prove a point. Some people may consider it to be more of a silent protest, which again is good for the time being, but people wanted more from this. Now, so while everything was going on around the 27th of June, going into the 28th of June, it did feel that there was a push towards getting a structured and organised group to outline what would be the best points for the community to say, hey, you know, Kabam, we're going to be doing this later date, and we're kind of really kind of up for kind of proving a point with this logout day, and these points should be addressed. And a lot of these points have changed, and it was then felt by Seaton that he wanted to do his own type of thing and his own kind of boycott, which kind of led us with two boycotts, which, you know, now, yeah, okay, it's a little bit confusing, but I'll try and give you a bit more kind of information for this. So I strongly suggest to go and watch Seaton's video, as well look at the document that he's got attached to this, which essentially gives an outline of what he feels as part of his community would be good for Kabam to notice and change. But essentially he is asking for a different type of boycott that attacks the 1-star reviews as well as the financial aspects to Kabam, which I don't think was overly kind of pushed in the other type of logout based event. Seaton has some valid points which outline which and what would be good for the game moving forward, but it's not to everybody's cup of tea. They'll find there'll be other aspects that they'll go, right, well, we feel that there should be this added, that added. Essentially, this changes from what the logout was meant to achieve. And the main focus seems to be now about the fact of better communication, and the communication being an aspect of having a good conversation between a good amount of players and the developer to understand what they're changing. The next thing is a beta testing that is a lot more efficient prior to launch. If we look at the dungeons aspect, and I have said my story, which was that I was doing a beta test for the dungeons with Havoc, and as a result of us not being able to get in, and we had a conversation with the developer about, you know, we were having issues getting in, we were not helped to get into that test, which meant that we weren't able to give a perspective. And because only from my perspective, Dave and Brian were able to get in, having another 2 content contributors get in means 4 people road testing before it went live to the community. So essentially us finding out that the connection problems were really bad, then that would have been a good thing to then say, well, are you sure you want to launch this event? The connections are really bad with this. And the next thing being, well, should that have been road tested a lot more to a large and wider audience, rather than it just being left to us to test out? So I want to move on to what I feel, and I think that's quite important, because there are things that I do agree with the logout MCOC. There's same things with Seaton's boycott that I do agree with as well. But I don't know if it's something that's ever going to change in the future. I'd like to think that it would. And these are the things that they kind of add a bit more extra to what has been said. So the first thing is I'd like to get more of an idea of how the servers work, and you know, why they go down, when they go down, what gets overloaded. You know, Kabam used to need to be a bit honest, like say, right, if it was the dungeons that caused their massive outages last month, then say it is, then we know, and saying, like, you know, we tried a bit too hard with this, it caused this as a result, we're gonna have to rework this in beta before we let you guys do this in future. Hey, no problem, thanks for letting me know. There's been instances like the Secret Empire Forever event. When that was on and ran with Punisher 2099, that event had a day where the game went down entirely, and a lot of people will remember that day. I certainly do. I try to remember these things as much as possible, because then it's good to come back to this stuff. So yeah, game communication is one of the biggest issues, and I think that communication on what is the best device to play the game is something that's asked quite frequently in the forums. And I think it would be nice for Kabam to say, because they are meant to be testing a lot of different devices in a lot of different time zones and locations around the world to make sure that things communicate with their server. And if they're not, then they should be doing that. It gives players and people a perspective saying, hey, if you play with an iOS device, then yes, of course, things are going to be a little bit faster. But which one of those is the best for that? Likewise with Android, if they said, hey, if you play the new Samsung device or the Samsung tablet, you're going to get a really decent experience. The frames per second is higher, the speed's going to be a lot higher and better, and you know that would be really helpful for players, especially if they're looking to grind out the game a bit more and more efficiently. That's really important. Essentially, I'd like to see something of a not a council, but a surveying system based on what's going to be added to the game, or maybe a survey system based on an outward thing from beta testing. So if Kabam say, hey, you know, next month we're going to be running this type of event, could you go in and beta test it and then come out with a survey and let us know the feedback from there. The same thing could be done for Alliance Wars before the changes go live for Season 3, if they were going to make those really severe and really bad changes and get people to properly test them. I know that there could be a good place for something of a committee, a council, not in the realms of the content contributor program. And I think about 1,000 people is a good kind of catchment amount from different places in the game to get them to come together and say, hey, well, for your different tierage, we're doing this, this, and this. This will then affect you in this way, give your feedback. And if you've got something that's saying like, oh, 57% are in favor of this change and the other percentage are not in favor of this change, you know, that, okay, that's not swinging brilliantly. But if you're looking at some people saying 80 in favor and 20 against a change that Ant-Man's able to have a built-in explosive personality buff to him against enemies, then that gives you a clear perspective of what the community think. Moving on from that, I do believe that the level of communication when it comes to changes should be put in. The surveys are great, not just about that 1,000 catchment, but at the same time, put it to the whole community. Are you happy that Archangel can bypass stun immunity? Do you want us to change him in any kind of way that is away from this so he doesn't bypass it? And let people know, give them a month or 2 months of that point so that survey, so they can then go, right, well, I can make those changes. And I think from a lot of players' perspective, and it comes with either people for this and against, that rank down tickets in respect of what has been changed should be represented. So hey, I've just ranked up this champion, then should you get rank down tickets? This is something that again could be put onto a survey. And there's two things that I feel quite passionate about, but at the same time I don't think this is ever going to happen. And that is number one, a consistency with champion improvements in lining with game changes, because the meta is changing. If the meta changes, then why can't I use a champion like Kamala Khan for endgame content? Why can't I use Iron Patriot? Why doesn't he kind of like cut the mustard with going up against Act 5? Though I must say that I have seen screens of somebody rank 5ing a 5-star Iron Patriot, so I guess somebody's got that kind of idea that could be a champion, unless they just did it for a bet. And the final thing is that the pricing is just like, it's like that guy, the rent is too damn high. It's kind of like the pricing is just so high in the game, and especially because they know that players want to pay that in order to further progress their roster. Obviously, there may be people that aren't really interested in Boycott whatsoever, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but at the same token, hopefully this video provided some sort of buffer to the reasoning from like so many different perspectives, what boycotts are on at the moment, which one you can support and why, and also like my own points to that. And it largely does boil down to communication. There's stuff being added into the game which I think, from Kabam's perspective, that either they don't want you to finish certain aspects, certain champions being added in, Ghost and Wasp are going to be a little bit difficult, and kind of the whole aspect of Alliance Wars being a big catalyst for issues with that. Either way, it does feel that their relationship is pretty poor at the moment. It was getting there, it was kind of like skating on thin ice, and now it's the case that things don't feel so great. At the end of the day, you have to make your decision whether or not you're with one type of boycott or the other. A lot of the time and kind of like dating aspects for when all this is happening has been kind of like skewed a little bit between different aspects and different people. So when we can get that to you, I'll let you know when either of these things are happening. I think like Seaton's has started now. There was talk about the logout one being for the 4th of July to kind of coincide with Independence Day, and there may be something that could actually be the 6th. But either way, that information I think will get out to the community at a later date. And it's up to you which like one you come down the line of. Do you feel that it should be the logout boycott and it should be more of a little bit of a silent protest, but at the same time being very clear about the aspects of what we're being let down by as a community? Or are you on about it being all about Mr. Seaton, Man of Legends, where the focus is being more direct about things, changing the game somewhat, but at the same time being focused on the monetary side of things and what is seen by the outer world with regards to, say, the 1-star review? Your thoughts on either types of boycott, as well as maybe you're not into the boycott as well. So there's 3 different points there to be made. Yes, leave your thoughts in the comment section. I've been RichTheMan. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more Marvel Contest of Champions based content. Hopefully it helped out some people that may be struggling about like what this whole boycott of 2018 is about, especially compared with the 2016 boycott. Yeah, hopefully it gives you a little bit more clarity. And at the same time, thank you, and I shall catch you on the flip side. Bye bye for now.